Red Dead Redemption 2 is known for its incredible attention to detail. In fact, Rockstar, the developer behind the game, went as far as taking some in real life locations and turning them into actual in-game locations. Now, if you didn't know, the entire game is actually based off of several states from within the United States of America. It doesn't take place in any specific location in the United States because there is just so much that they crammed into this world to represent each and every state. Obviously, the scale of the world in Red Dead Redemption 2 is huge, but when you compare it to real life, it wouldn't be big enough to encompass several of these in real life states. So the world of the game actually hosts several areas that represent actual locations, and it's just interesting to see that they've decided to include some of these things. Like, some of these locations, like statues and whatnot, make sense, but some of them aren't that well-known buildings, and for some reason they just decided to add them in. And I'm sure there's several other buildings in the game from real life as well, but I'm not going to show them on screen here today. Again, it just shows the level of detail they decided to put into the game, and I think that some particular states in the US actually gave them the ideas they needed to put together the world of Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, again, like I said, I'm sure there's a lot more buildings that are represented in the game from real life, but we haven't found them yet, so maybe you can actually go out and find some for yourself. But a user over on Reddit actually summed up the game world pretty nicely. He actually explains every area of the game with great detail and what the real life counterparts of the areas are being represented here. So he goes on to say, the states and territories in Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2 are amalgamations, that's a pretty big word, of multiple states in the United States. Lemoyne clearly is a combination of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. These are the southeast states covered in bayou swamps, and they have hot, humid weather. Saint Denis is without a doubt a recreation of the city of New Orleans. The KKK is active in Lemoyne, if you pay attention, by the way, which of course the KKK would be known for being in that area. So New Hanover, it should be considered two different states, in my opinion, he says. The eastern part along the coast being Appalachia. The real-life states would be Virginia, West Virginia, North and South Carolina. These states have hills and mountains along the western borders. The western part of New Hanover is Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, and Kansas. In real life, this is the southern part of the Midwest in the US. It has mountains to the east with many canyons and valleys, but the land becomes flatter towards the west. So obviously the world within Red Dead Redemption 2 is a little bit exaggerated when it comes to the size. They really did crunch down all of this. He goes on to say, Ambarino. This territory comprises the largest amount of in real life American states in the game. This should also be considered two different states. Grizzlies East is a representation of some of the northern part of the US Midwest. These states being Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, and Wisconsin. These states have a colder climate. At the time, they were fully established states, and the American government had driven most of the Native American population out of this area and into the West. Grizzlies West is comprised mostly of Big Sky country in the northern part of the US. The real-life states are Minnesota, North and South Dakota, and parts of Montana, Colorado, and Wyoming. These were territories where many natives were relocated to during the 1800s. The winters are very cold and snowy in the north, and there are tons of mountains and valleys in the west. West Elizabeth, it looks like it is mostly the eastern part of Texas and Oklahoma. A drier climate, but still hot. It's very flat land with a few hills and rivers. There is a lot of farming land and open pastures. New Austin, the real-life states are Texas, New Mexico, and possibly Arizona. These states were hot and dry and partially covered in desert towards the south. This was the wildest part of the West. Many Mexican and American gangs ran rampant in the area in the 1800s. These states were originally part of Mexico, so it's not uncommon to run into Mexicans there in Red Dead Redemption. And of course, the bottom part of the map would be Mexico. So they're, again, cramming all of this stuff really, really tightly so they could represent all of these states within the world of the game. And the post ends there, but again, I think it's funny to see how much they decided to cram into a tiny game world. I mean, the world in the game is anything but tiny when it comes to video games, but if you compare it to real life, it definitely doesn't encompass enough land to contain all of these states. Obviously, the world of Red Dead Redemption 2 is set in a fictional world, so none of it is meant to be accurate. but I'm glad that they made it the way that they did, because they got to represent several states and their different characteristics in each area of the game, and not just with the terrain and cities, but also with the people and the animals in the game. And of course, I think that it's just really interesting to see how much effort and detail they put into this game to represent all of these states and whatnot. And I just think that, you know, it just goes to show how detailed this game is and how much work went into it. But other than that, let me know down in the comment section below what you think about this. Do you think that it's pretty interesting that they went into as much detail as they did with this, to even take out, you know, buildings from real life and put them in the game? But that's going to be it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like and subscribe, because it only does take a second out of your day to make mine. But with that out of the way, have a wonderful day, and see you in the next one. Here is actually some footage of these locations in the game, and it's pretty interesting to see what they look like in game compared to real life. So here you go, and see you in the next one.
Hello there.
This land of equality is a sham and a disgrace.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Monsieur? Are you
Make
now?
this country a real democracy.
Okay, final warning! Damn it all. Oh, as good as dead! Come on! I'm ending you! Now you're dead! Easy. You're up. Son of a bitch! Ah! 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 Okay then.